Hey guys, and welcome to the newest episode of Be Hero Presents the Bump Card Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, as always, Brian, and with me tonight is my tag partner, Psycho. How you doing tonight, Psycho?
I'm doing pretty good tonight. I'm ready for this one.
Are you ready?
Well, I got two words
As
for you.
the Paul Lebec would say.
Yes. Yeah. I guess who's running the most, the biggest promotion in the world right now. So
And honestly, doing the best storyline job in any promotion right now.
yeah, I would agree with that. It's been quite a year. We're gonna dive into the year that was 2023, and then we'll look ahead to 2024 as well.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited. What a year 2023 was for wrestling. General, so much happened. I was thinking about this as we were prepping for this, and I'm like, the beginning of 2023, the promotion of WWE was owned by Vincent Kennedy McMahon and ran by him, and neither are true anymore.
Yeah, and I don't think Vince was running things at the beginning of 2023, because I believe the previous
that was when
he was starting to make
they
a
were there
comeback.
trying to build.
Yeah, so Vince was trying to weasel his way back in because he had retired the previous year, technically.
Yes,
but then he came back onto the board of directors at the beginning of the year, of 2023, and yeah, it was that was when he was first starting to talk about selling WWE. And I think, if you want to talk about let's talk about one of the biggest news stories of the year, WWE getting sold to Endeavor. And basically merging, having UFC and WWE under the same company. Kind of crazy.
Which is an odd situation because, you have professional wrestling and mixed martial arts essentially owned by the same people, like the two biggest names in both, right? I mean, of course, you got AEW and Bellator and Pride and Impact and so on, but they're owned by the same people, right?
Yeah.
And going along with that, it kind of towards the tail end of last year, but it's kind of sort of this year. There might not also be a Raw on or USA anymore.
Yeah, it's looking that way. But SmackDown's going to be on USA, so
yeah,
that'll be different. Yeah, kind of crazy. I believe that Stephanie McMahon was she still with the company when 2023 started?
Yes, she was still with the company because she was co-running the company with Nick Khan.
Right.
At the beginning of the year, it was until they brought Vince back into the board, which was February, March.
I want to.
It was
very
just
early.
before WrestleMania.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think WrestleMania was really the first WrestleMania where Triple H was really running things as far as the creative force, where nobody else was meddling.
But we were worried because Vince was back by WrestleMania, so we were worried that he was going to worry about. So I think it was right before WrestleMania, and literally the same day almost that McMahon came on the board, Stephanie left the company.
Yep.
So
that's an interesting thing, just because, Stephanie's somebody that I would have thought wouldn't have left WWE because that was her whole life. Her father started it, or not started it, but you know what I mean.
Her grandfather started
exactly.
It
was a family business, right? So to leave the company, kind of. I am sure there's a much bigger story there than she kind of. her public stance on it was that she was going home to, take care of family and be more with her family and whatnot. But you just
To
know,
be with their kids and their mom.
yeah, you just know though that that's not the real reason, because you don't she got basically, announced as a co-CEO running it with Nick Khan, and then like almost immediately she's leaving the company altogether. There's more to that story than meets the eye that's being told.
And I agree, and we might never know
Right.
unless someone puts a book out.
Right.
Would you read this book by Steph?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like
Yeah,
everything that she's like seen, like absolutely. I That would be a very interesting book, especially if she was honest. The
yeah,
That would be interesting to see her perspective on the Triple H stuff and Vince and Shane and just growing up in the business. That I think that would be a very interesting story. I think any of the McMahons writing a book, I would want to read that. Can you imagine if Vince?
even Linda.
I mean, that'd be the most boring book. Like it's like because of how she would probably write it, it'd be. But at the same time, there'd probably be some interesting stories, as long as she was able to dish. But
Yep.
yeah, kind of crazy. I think that has to be one of the biggest stories though of the year. And then as far as I know, Vince is completely out now. Like he's sold a bunch of his stock, he's off the board, he's not TKO basically which is the new company that they basically formed with this merger. They basically have handed the keys to Triple H to run the full creative, and said you're the guy, and Nick Khan's going to be running the business side of WWE. And
Yep.
yeah, and what a year it's been there, because if you look back at where WWE started this year or in 2023, uh the bloodline was running hot. You had the big news, the big feud was Sami Zayn, right? Kind of that was the big story line that was going on, was Sami Zayn and the blood. He was started with the bloodline, and then they had the Royal Rumble where Roman Reigns. I'm trying to think, who did Roman face at Rumble last year? Oh yeah, Kevin
Kevin.
Owens, right? And then
Yeah.
yes, and then Sami Zayn went after the match where he hits Roman Reigns with the steel chair. Go back and watch that. That is a monstrous pop from that crowd.
Oh
Like
yeah.
like I went back and watched it, and it was like, this is as hot as wrestling's been in a long, long time. Like that storyline, to think of where that started, where Sami Zayn was the hot act, and then they had that big match with between Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn in Montreal. Uh yeah,
Elimination
Elimination
Chamber
Chamber. And that felt like that could have been a WrestleMania type moment, And
for a B
yes,
show.
exactly. And then going into WrestleMania, you had the Cody Rhodes, against Roman Reigns, and so that was good stuff. And you had
Well, yeah, Sam and
yep.
Kevin, or Sammy and Kevin going up against
Yes,
the
main
Usos,
eventing night one of
right?
WrestleMania. I
Yeah.
think that's the first time since WrestleMania 1 that there was a tag team match main eventing a WrestleMania. I don't think that there was, because there's been fatal four ways, there's been one-on-one matches, but I think that was the first time since WrestleMania 1 there was a tag match that main evented. So
Yeah.
that was a big deal. And the first time ever that the tag team titles main evented. And I'm not counting like double main events where like Money Incorporated against Hogan and Beefcake at WrestleMania 9. It's like, no, the match that goes on last. Right. And
Yeah.
right.
The
And
main event.
I mean, technically, it's weird because you could say that the night 2 main event is the true main event of WrestleMania, but at the same time, I think I think it counts because it's a main eventing its own show, right? It's WrestleMania still, and it's
Yeah,
night one. Uh, that was 2 years in a
and they're separate
yes,
cards
exactly.
too, right? Like if you look at it that way, like when building a good proper card in wrestling, like you have to build it with its kind of own flow and own story. And you can't do that over 2 nights. You need to have each individual one have its own flow, own story for each. So I think that, yeah, I would totally count that as its
Mhm.
own separate main event.
And that was 2 years in a row, by the way, for Kevin Owens to main event WrestleMania. Because yeah, for
For
night
night
one,
one.
exactly. Night one, both 2 years in a row though. Because you had Kevin Owens against Stone Cold Steve Austin the previous year. Um, but
Yep.
so big deal there.
Well, think about it too. That storyline created three huge faces, right? It put Kevin Owens back on the map as a
Mhm.
huge face. It made Sammy the hottest he's ever been, and still has got a lot of that belovedness from that, right? He has not been that beloved since he arrived in
Yeah,
NXT, and it's so good. And then, of all people, Jey Uso is
yeah,
huge right now off of that storyline, right? Um, Literally main events, Jey Uso. Like at this point, if he ends up with the big belt, it's not like a huge surprise as if he would have done it
mhm.
almost 4 years ago now, when he faced Roman. Like if he would have beat Roman then, huge surprise. If he would have beat Roman at
SummerSlam.
what was it,
I think it was SummerSlam.
Backlash,
Yeah,
SummerSlam, it would it wouldn't have been a huge surprise, right? It would have been a surprise, but not a huge surprise as it would have been the 3.5 years beforehand because of what the storyline has done for him.
yeah, and I feel like the Bloodline storyline that's been the big story I think to covering this year. Uh, I I do feel though, I mean, look at even the stuff with the Usos and like them leaving and then coming back and all of that stuff with Roman Reigns.
Mhm.
Uh they just kept the story going with new stories and new twists and everything. I kind of feel that towards the end of the year because Roman like I think after SummerSlam really Roman really started like not being around that often. Whereas I
Mhm.
think before he was a constant, even if he wasn't wrestling all the time, he was still on the shows. Uh
Definitely
yes.
more often than not. Like it's almost like a big
Mhm.
event now for
Yeah.
Roman to be on
Yeah. So
SmackDown.
he's really like taken a step back, even though he's the champion, and still the champion, for 3 years running or whatever it is now. Uh
Working
yes.
towards four.
I feel like though, like the story kind of ran out of steam towards the end of the year because there wasn't a lot of twists with that.
Mhm.
But there's so many built up challengers now. I mean, that could like realistically challenge for him and be, considered a main event. I mean, I can't wait for Rumble. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but like that was kind of the big storyline for the year as far as WWE goes. Um
Well, AEW had a big one through most of the year too,
yes.
and that man, his name is
Yes,
MJF.
MJF and Adam Cole had a good story going through a good portion of the year. I mean, let's at least the second half of the year,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I when did it
Well, I
start?
know they had their big match at Wembley in
It
August,
started.
so I think it had to have started like June, maybe. Does that sound about right? May, June?
Well, they won the tag titles in June, July. They won it in July.
No, no, no. They won it in
For
they won
the
it in the
ROH titles.
pre-show of Wembley.
Oh, that's right. They won
Yep.
the pre-show
Yeah,
Wembley.
it
Yep,
all
that's
in.
right. Uh,
So, yeah, so I'm
Maybe
thinking
June.
June.
Yeah, but But even that, like, you had some really good matches with MJF at the
Mhm.
beginning of the year. Because you had the, I want to say this was the year that you had the Four
Yep,
Pillars
yep,
match with
you did.
him
Yep.
at the
Mhm.
beginning of the year, which was a really good match. Um, yeah, he really didn't have
No,
really bad
MJF, if you
matches.
look at the body of
Uh,
his work this year, like he always delivered on pay-per-view. Like it was kind of weird because before that was kind of the knock on MJF is that he's great on the mic, but kind of, he's not the best, he doesn't have the best work rate in the ring. He can't do, he can't have the greatest matches. But like in the last year and a half, 2 years, he's really kind of proved everybody wrong about that because every big
yeah,
match situation he's been in, he's delivered. And it's like you go in thinking like, at least at the beginning of the year, you went in thinking like, okay, MJF's there, and then he'd wow you, he'd surprise you and be like, that was a great freaking match. And then like towards like the mid part of the year, and then especially now, it doesn't surprise me anymore. It's almost expected that MJF's gonna
yeah.
bring it, you know. And
He's most
mhm,
likely to have match of the night. Um, and not just all that, but like he started off the year going back to the Four Pillars match and things like that. Uh, he was the
yeah,
number one heel in the company. Nobody got more heat than MJF, right? And as the year progressed, they told such a great story with him and Adam Cole. He became
yes,
beloved, right? He really doesn't do anything different in the ring, but he became so beloved. He's the number one face by the end of the year in the company. And they did it in such a slow burn. It felt so
it was organic.
emotionally natural that you didn't feel like you had to be like, oh, yeah, it was definitely organic because you didn't feel like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, I guess he's the face now. It's just like,
It
that's
was
our
it was
scumbag.
much the same way like Stone Cold Steve Austin went from being a heel to a baby face. It's like he didn't change anything really, but the fans just got behind him,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, he's our scumbag now. And and that video package that they did with in Long Island with the everybody with the scarves and saying he's our scumbag, brilliant. And I still can't, that's probably one of the best video packages of the entire year.
Oh, yeah. And AEW in general has actually been, I'm not going
Mhm.
to say bringing it all the time, but they've had such. And I don't know if it's because there's not a lot of great stuff on there, especially relevant to the WWE, who's been doing a lot of great stuff this year. But there's not been a lot of great stories or great matches. But the ones that they have been phenomenal, right? So look at everything with Christian Cage this year, who's had an amazing year and an amazing story, who is hands down their number one heel in
Yeah,
AEW. And then you look at Daniel Bryan and all the great matches he's had building into his retirement year, which is next or this year, possibly. Um, Similarly with Sting, who's working towards his retirement year, which is
that one's
also this
fastly
year.
approaching.
You've had,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
March, I think. So, but like that Daniel Bryan Zack Sabre Jr. match still sticks with me. Such a great match. But along with that at
Mm.
Swerve Strickland, who's had an amazing year, and that match he had with Hangman Page was
Yeah,
amazing. And like I said, they have not had the greatest matches or everything, but they've had some
they've had
amazing matches
moments,
when they've had them.
and I feel I feel like it kind of had AEW kind of was on a hot streak where until they got to All In, right, in Wembley, and that was like their peak, right? Drawing 80 plus thousand people, to a stadium, and I know that there's a lot of controversy over how many actually were paid, and how many and all that. It's WrestleMania 3 all over again. But
It's still I was
right.
gonna say it's
It's
WrestleMania
like
numbers
you
though.
you look at that crowd, and it's like whether it's 80,000, 60,000, 70,000 for AEW to draw that at this stage of, just like what, 5 years basically, or not even 5 years, I don't think. I think they started in 2019. Is it 5 years?
They're in 5 years.
Okay, so uh
Yeah.
it's amazing that they drew that many people to an arena. It'll be interesting to see if they can do
Yeah.
it again. But uh but then
I think they can,
yeah, which they
especially if
are.
they're doing it in England again.
Oh, so for August, All In's, yep, they're making that an annual thing. Um After
Yeah.
that though, things started to kind of go down from there. You had, I think the big moment after that was Adam Copeland debuting. That was kind of the the last
Yeah.
huge, like, oh my gosh moment. They tried with the Devil storyline, but it was intriguing, and they went with the obvious choice, which, I mean, who else could it have been? There wasn't many options that could have made that.
There were
There
thousands of
were,
options that people brought up on the internet.
right,
This was the
exactly. It's
best
like there
of the
wasn't anything
options,
else. Right. It's,
except for Shane
I
McMahon.
know that there was some people saying, "Oh, it should have been Tony Khan," because then he could have pulled the whole, "It was me, Jacob," or "It was me, Maxwell," So, it was me all along. Um,
Could have been Vince.
Anything
That would
like
have been great.
that, I think we were all expecting. It's like, okay, so it's either going to be the obvious choice, Adam Cole, or it has to be something like that, like a McMahon or something. There were no other options that the fans would have accepted. And even the obvious choice, there's been people that crapped on it. It's like, okay, we, we saw this coming, but there weren't, it made sense. It made sense. And sometimes that's all you need in wrestling. Sometimes we can get too cutesy with, the booking and overthinking things. Um, I, f- I feel like though, like, attendance is down, other than their last pay-per-view actually did pretty well. It sold out, and they need more of that. But there's not the buzz that there was in the first half of the year, like from Wembley previous. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but um
There are, and like even an example,
mhm,
like they went back to Daly's place this week, right? Which is their home. It's pretty much where they spent all of the pandemic, and it's a 5,000 person stadium, and they only got a little over 3,000 in it, and that's at home, right? That's their place. It's like WWE not filling out Madison Square Garden, so it's hard to say attendance wise. Um, and I think a lot of it to do, and I know where you're going to go with this because you keep bringing up after Wembley, so I know exactly where you're planning on going with this. But I think that the writing was on the wall before this too, because they'd already started losing attendance, not as drastically, but had started losing attendance. Um, I think a lot of it does deal with poor writing, poor stories, because you don't have the want to go there to see something happen live, right? Most of the time, you can watch these amazing matches that they have on AEW on TV and be perfectly fine with it. You don't have that draw to
mhm.
have to see it in live. But a great example, right? How many people were in San Diego 2 weeks ago and saw The Rock appear out of nowhere, right? Because they knew story wise and how everything's been developed right now with Triple H that literally anything can happen, and they wanted to be able to say, "I was there when The Rock came back at San Diego," or "I was there when Goldberg debuted in Salt Lake City," right? Those kind of things are the reasons you go to live events, and sadly, AEW doesn't have that. They don't have that good writing, that good buzz. They have great matches, which I can happily watch on my TV and not have to pay it for a ticket, even though tickets are like $12 most of the time because they always bring them down. But I don't need to be there, right? WWE, I feel like I need to be there to be able to be like, I was there when this happened.
Yeah.
And yes, part of it is going to definitely be because one of their biggest names was let go after attempting to choke out a small child.
Is that what we're calling Jack Perry? A small child? Yeah. Well,
A small
I've
child, yes.
it's interesting because it's hard to believe that this has all happened in the same year, right? You had CM Punk, right? Let's say his name, right? CM Punk started the year, he was suspended, right? He wasn't wrestling because of the whole, brawl out, situation with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and everything, right? So he started the year suspended, comes back in June to headline Collision, their new show, and that right, and
Yep.
that's
That's
another story altogether. Is like adding Collision, AEW adding Collision, to their schedule, and because that wasn't there before. It's another 2 hours of television, but it was basically
Yep.
started because Warner Brothers wanted CM Punk, and rather than Tony Khan sitting everybody down and trying to make money, he was like, all right, you just don't, just stay away from each other. Just stay away from each other. It's basically like a parent, with kids, basically like, so and so's pinching me or punching me or or annoying me. Well, just go to your rooms and stay away from each other. It's like just ignore each other, and so I was kind of hoping that there'd be some story to come out of everything, and Punk and the Young Bucks and Omega would try to make money with it, but instead, Punk had his own show, and I really liked the tone of Collision when it first started. It was Saturday night's main event style. They did the old school like Saturday night's main event like cold open promos to start the show, and they had the cool Elton John song, to Saturday's all right for fighting. It was yeah, they still are. They still are.
I think they're still using that
But
song.
all of that was a cool thing, and they had good matches on there. And then we thought that things were going in a good direction, and Wembley was coming up, and they had all this momentum, and leading up to Wembley, there was the whole story with Jack Perry basically, wanting to use real glass in a segment on Collision, and
There were other stories
right,
too involving
and
Punk, but that was the big one.
and then Punk telling him, we're not doing that here, and clearly Jack Perry took that personally, right? Didn't like being told what to do, even though Punk was not the only one to tell him no. Tony Schiavone and so many others that were on Collision were saying no, and they actually went to Punk to go talk to him. And then comes Wembley, and we'll talk about Wembley as a whole in a second, but then you had Punk or Jack Perry's in the pre-show wrestling Hook, and he looks at the camera and he says, "It's real glass, cry me a river." Well, as soon as that happened, I knew, oh, this isn't going to end well. This is not going to end well. Um, and then it comes out that when Jack Perry gets to the back, some sort of an altercation happens with Punk and Jack Perry. We may never know exactly what happened there because NDAs are like the buzzword for 2023. Right, with everything.
Jesus
I
Christ.
It's funny too because I never even heard of NDAs until this past year. I mean, I've heard of NDAs, don't get me wrong, but it's never been a big thing in wrestling, at least to my knowledge, except for this last year. And because um
Well, yes, ish the year
right,
before or 2 years ago, 2022. But that was because finding out
right,
about a lot of ladies signing NDAs after speaking with
right.
a couple of people in the
But
WWE.
like imagine if there was NDAs around the Montreal screw job. It's like you'd think that would have been that would have been a thing. It's like,
Probably should have
it's like,
been.
okay, nobody's going to talk about this. That would have changed so much, right? Um but yeah, so some sort of an altercation happens, and within the next week, uh Punk is let go from the company. Tony Khan, and his disciplinary committee, uh yes, decided to let CM Punk go and terminate him
Yep.
with cause. And he becomes a free agent. He has to wait his 90 days. And then CM Punk shows up at Survivor Series in one of my favorite moments of the entire year. uh it was crazy because I show up at your place, ready to watch Survivor Series, and I texted you and I was like, "Happy CM Punk returns day," and you gave me the hard eye roll, or you were, yeah, I believe you said something like "stand," like, my eyes rolled up in my head. I have to go to the ER because my eyes just rolled so hard, like Stan Hansen gave me a lariat. Um, and it was funny because I was like joking
Yeah.
about it because I don't know why I said that. I thought that there was a chance, right? Even though everybody was saying he's not signing and everything. Uh, but then, and even towards the end, though, like I was joking like he was going to show up all day, and then at the end, I had pretty much given up hope because they were, the match was over. It was this long delay. They had the credits up, basically like they were going to sign off, and then all of a sudden, the static and CM Punk's music hits. I haven't like marked out like that since probably like CM Punk returned to AEW. Or when he first debuted in AEW. And it was one of those things because I just like I could not believe it. And I looked at you, and I could only imagine what you were thinking, like, oh God, Nick's never gonna let this down. He's never gonna let
And you haven't.
well, I'm
You
not the type of
haven't.
guy to say I told you so, but I
Yes, you are. You've done it to
but
me many
it
times
was a
over the
great
20 years we've known
moment.
each other.
And he's done monster business for the WWE so far. His debut match at Madison Square Garden, his return match, first, like one of the biggest house shows that they've done in their history. It was, sold out Madison Square Garden show. Uh, when house shows don't mean as much as they used to, but they still mean something at the Garden, right? Um,
yeah, and again, that's that thing I was talking about earlier with AEW.
Yeah.
People can go be like,
Yeah.
I was there when Punk had his first match
Yeah.
back against
Which
Dominic Mysterio.
Dominic Mysterio's tweet after that or whatever was, did you see it? Where he says, he posts a picture of him in the ring with CM Punk, and he says, the best in the world and CM Punk. Took you a second. Yes. Yes.
I love Dominic, man.
Mysterio.
He's had a fantastic year
He's
too.
got to be one of the top heels in WWE, if not the top heel. I would think, other than, I mean, you can say Roman and everything, and Roman, that's true. But Dominic Mysterio, he's got heat named after him. That's how much heat he gets. It's Dirty Dominic heat or whatever. It's he's come a long way. I used to think it's like, oh, second generation, Rey Mysterio's son. Like, he wasn't doing anything for me. He was kind of bland. I was getting almost like David Flair type vibes, that he was going to get shoved down our throats. But then now, I would not be displeased at all if he won like the Intercontinental title or the US title or something like that. I think that he deserves it. He deserves the title. I know he had the North American title in NXT and everything, but I feel he deserves a title on the main roster in some form. Because he's definitely earned it with his work over the last year.
I agree. And not only has he done great work in general, but he's done great business, right? There was times where he was on all three shows the same week. Like, he was on Raw with Judgment Day, then he was on NXT on Tuesday, and then he was on SmackDown doing stuff with the Bloodline, and then all the stuff they were doing there. Like, there was time where they were doing nothing but Judgment Day stuff, and Dom was like a focus on it. And again, with that, Judgment Day as a whole has been doing really good.
Yes.
Mommy, Rhea Ripley, she's fantastic. She's a solo draw by herself. You can go to see stuff about Rhea Ripley, and this is the same person 4 years ago that got destroyed by Charlotte Flair in WrestleMania after supposed to be the next big thing, kind of thing, coming up from NXT. And her comparison between the two versions of Rhea, her now and her 4 years ago, are night and day. Her work rate, her ability as doing character work and selling and everything else is so much better than it was then. She has found herself in the gimmick she's in now, and she's already a Hall of Famer to me, in my mind.
Yeah, no, she's
that's
had
how
a
great
tremendous year
she's done.
And she won the Rumble, didn't she? Yeah, she won the Women's Royal Rumble. So yeah,
she
so
did.
definitely
She
had a great year.
So yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane how many great years a lot of people have had. Gunther is another one that had a fantastic year. Beat Honky's record, has had the longest IC title of all time now, and it's still going. But not only did he build up his stuff really well, his boys, Imperium, have done really well in building up them as a tag team, and Kaiser as a great heel. Especially, I don't know if you watched it, but did you watch the match with him and Kofi on Monday? So the week before, Kofi was with my brain just turned off. Jey Uso tagging against Imperium, and part of the way through the match, Kofi went to hit a drop kick on Vinci, who jumped off the second rope, and Vinci whacked his head on the bump and knocked himself loopy, and the ref stopped the match. And so they set up a match with Kofi this week against Kaiser as retribution for what Vinci did. And Kaiser was amazing in this match. Amazing. And I know this is this year's stuff, but it kind of pulls back from last year because of the way they were building Kaiser. But not only did they have it where it was a double DQ on the outside, or double count out on the outside for the finish with him and Kofi, but he went ape shit at the end and said he was going, or you took Vinci's head, I'm going to take your head. Throws a chair, not like a regular folding chair, but throws an announcer chair at Kofi. And then after knocks him down with that, he puts him laid out on the stairs and drop kicks his head into the stairs and everything else while having Jason Jordan and what's his name? Uh, Another backstage producer and refs and stuff pulling him off. And that match alone, I think, made Kaiser for this year. And that's all on the hands or on the back of what him and Gunther has done last year and stuff. Because Imperium as a whole has done amazing, and Gunther doing everything he did is amazing. And in addition to that, this was the year of Chad Gable and Alpha Academy because of Gunther, right? How hot was the crowd for Chad Gable to win the IC title in front of his family when he was only like a few days from beating Honky's record? Like, the crowd was insane for that match. And it was a great match.
Oh yeah,
Gunther's had amazing matches this year. That triple threat he had at WrestleMania with him and McIntyre and Sheamus was amazing. Amazing. Gunther's had an amazing year.
I mean,
God, there's so many other great workers that have had amazing years this year. Tony Storm. Oh, Drew McIntyre. But yeah, Tony Storm has had an unbelievable year, especially the later half, right? When she went from, like, they were doing the Outcast thing, and then she started doing this timeless Tony Storm gimmick. The timeless Tony Storm gimmick is amazing. It was literally the perfect gimmick for her to go with on this. And again, this happened this week, but it made me laugh so hard. And you'll get this, but fans might not. In RMP or in Colorado, and we had them here at Devotion a couple of times, there was a worker by the name of, oh my gosh, my brain just turned off, Chongo.
Yes.
Who would work with us, who had an acting gimmick, right? And in the middle of his match, he would yell, "Line," as in trying to like feed him his line kind of thing. Tony Storm did that in a promo this week. And it totally made me laugh and think of Django the whole time. God, it's so good.
Yes.
So good. But yeah, then go back, Drew, his amazing year. Was a face for the most of the year. The beginning of the year, him and Sheamus were tagging, right? And did that stuff. And then again, going to that match against Gunther. Had a lot of great solid matches building to this match he had with Seth, who's also had a great year, and eventually turning heel. But not only turning heel, but justifiably turning heel. Everything that McIntyre has done and said is truthful. There's no fabrication. There's no malice directly to it. It's all honesty.
Did you see?
And that makes it such.
Did you see the promo this past Raw with Drew and CM Punk?
I'm so here for it.
Yeah, that was pretty good stuff too. Like,
yes,
that just that's the thing that CM Punk has done though, is that everybody he's making everybody look better and looking like a threat in the Rumble and everything. It's like so many side stories. There's not just one story. There's so many side stories, so that when we get to the Rumble and there's when somebody comes out, they're going to be over. The crowd's going to react to them based on these little side stories. Like, I honestly can't remember a Rumble where there's that many people that are hot at the same time. It's going to be crazy. But you mentioned Seth Rollins. He had a tremendous year. Becoming did he win the the World Heavyweight Championship? Was it at this? It was this year, right? That they created that belt, and yes, yes, and he's
Yeah, him
made
and
that
AJ
title
had that
mean
match. Yeah,
something. You know, it's not quite the big title that Roman has, but it's getting there.
yeah.
It's he's making it mean something where it's not just a consolation prize. Uh and he's had a lot of good defenses with it. And good stories. Um yeah, it's and he's
Mhm.
definitely somebody that's kind of put the company on the back. Especially he's been the workhorse while Roman's taking all the time off and everything. They can rely on Seth Rollins, to carry the shows while Roman's not around. Um yes.
And make guys, right?
Mhm.
Like, think of what kind of year Shinsuke's had
Mhm.
because of the stuff he did with Seth. Shinsuke's had a good last
Mhm.
couple of months of the year because of building the story with there, and he's interesting, right? Like the stuff that they do with
Mhm.
Shinsuke, where he's uh, doing all of his promos in Japanese. There was one that he did that was completely animated as a promo and stuff like that. It's just insane the stuff they've done. Like this might be the best year for the WWE since the 2000s, like since 2000 itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's
This may
just
be
so
the greatest
much.
storytelling year of
Uh,
WWE's history.
I mean, gosh, so much that they've done. Um, I can't believe we haven't really talked about Cody Rhodes yet either, because I mean, Cody had a fantastic year. Yes, Cody. I mean, he started the year
There's
winning the
just
Royal
so
Rumble,
much stuff.
going on to WrestleMania, to face Roman Reigns, and that promo that Cody cut with Paul Heyman, where Paul mentioned Dusty and everything, so good. Um, and
Oh
you
yeah,
know Cody lost to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and there was a lot of controversy over that and backlash and everything, saying that he should have won it then. But they've kept Cody hot, just as hot. In fact, now he's almost like been deemed the guy. He's the top baby face in WWE.
yeah.
And he's had his feud with Brock Lesnar coming out of WrestleMania. Gosh, I can't believe Brock is, that seems like so long ago, you know, that they had those matches, and good matches.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm. Um,
Three really
and
great
then
matches for
and then
especially for Brock
Cody,
matches.
went on. Now he's feuding with Shinsuke, and he had they did War Games, and gosh, I remember. Yes, exactly.
Won the
So
tag
much.
titles with
They
Jay.
had all these little side stories too, about like with Jay Uso going to Raw, and then can we trust him, because he was, and that's really the kind of been the start of Drew McIntyre's heel turn, is that whole stuff with Jay. Um and then Randy Orton returning. There's another big name. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
holy cow. And then you've got LA Knight.
Right.
LA Knight had a big year. Yeah. Uh
Yeah.
and
Who
he
emerged
was one of the most
on
over
his own
guys
merits.
of the entire year. Uh I mean, gosh, it I can't remember a time. Mhm. Yep, until Punk got there.
He was selling more merch than anybody for like 3 months.
But still, uh I can't remember the last time WWE has had this many over baby faces in the company at once. Like, I mean, you could put together like there's probably 10 of them easy that could be main event players, and legitimately challenge, you know, for Roman's title, and maybe even have a legitimate case to main eventing WrestleMania. I mean, gosh, if I just count them off, you got Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, LA Knight, Jey Uso,
LA Knight,
uh, heck, even Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. Oh my gosh, like it goes on and on and on. And now
Sami
I
Zayn,
guess we got to say The
Kevin
Rock,
Owens.
like if he's gonna kind of inject himself. Can I say that I really hope The Rock is in the Royal Rumble? Because we're gonna get into predictions here, so I'll hold off on that. But uh, but there's so many baby faces here. Uh, I'm just in awe of just where WWE is now, and I still feel like AEW. They have enough talent there that they can make a go of things and make things interesting this year, as well. Samoa Joe winning the title for AEW. Yeah. At this stage in his career, to be the world champion of
Which
the
was
number 2
surprising,
wrestling
honestly.
promotion in the world, it's uh good on Joe. Like I've always been a big Samoa Joe fan, and I'm excited to see what he does with the championship, going into this year. Um I feel like some other ones that had big years in AEW. I mean, Will Ospreay, he's officially signed with AEW, and he had some really good matches in AEW too. He had the great match with Jericho. He had a great
Yep.
match with Kenny Omega. Um, so that's an exciting thing for 2024 as well. Is Will
Yep.
Ospreay having regular matches?
I think not not only did he
Mm-hmm.
have great matches, he kind of got that worldwide exposure too that he never really got before. Like uh, again, my wife has been watching wrestling since she was a kid and such, but it's usually like WWE, WCW, AEW, of course.
Mm-hmm.
She had never heard of Will Ospreay up till this last year because she
Mm-hmm.
didn't follow him on like PWG or Chikara or New Japan or anything else like that. So she didn't know of him at all. And
Yeah.
now she loves him. He's one of her favorite workers
Yes,
to
and
watch. So
we talked about
he
Swerve
got that worldwide
Strickland. He
exposure
had
now.
a great year, and he's a main event player. I'm saying it right now. Like I would not be surprised that he's going to be in
Oh
main
yeah,
events this year, guaranteed. Okay, good. Because now that's a match that can
he just
draw money.
challenged Joe.
You put Joe against Swerve Strickland, and it's going to be a brutal match. Um,
Yeah.
so that's a match. That's a big time match that can draw money.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I I'm not the biggest fan of these guys, but I mean, you had um Eddie Kingston had a good year for what he does. He ended the year really strong.
Yes.
Right. Me neither.
He is super
Mm-hmm.
beloved. I'm not a fan of him, but I can see why people like him. He can work a crowd really well. And I think that he's got a lot of great tools. He's not my cup of tea. Let me say it that way. But yeah, he had an amazing
Yeah.
year.
What he did with that
Orange
international
Cassidy
title
had an
was,
amazing year.
yeah,
My God, what an amazing year he had. Uh,
John
he made
Moxley.
it. He made that belt this year. Um,
Yeah. Oh yes.
the
Scissor me, daddy.
Acclaim, John Moxley, the Acclaim, and Billy
Yes.
Gunn had an amazing
Yep.
year. That was when that started, was last year and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and they're super over with it.
FTR.
Uh, the House of Black had an amazing year. FTR, they came back after the whole Punk thing when Collision started up and
Ricky
everything else,
Starks.
and they've done a really great work this year. Who else is there? Again, we talked about
I
Tony
know.
Storm.
I know he's not yours.
Ricky
I'm
Starks has
actually a
definitely
big
had a
fan
good
of
year.
Ricky Starks. I
Again,
like him.
not my cup of tea.
But he had a good year. He's kind of made his name this year, in 2023.
Yeah, that match he had with Daniel Bryan,
Oh
with
yeah,
the strap
Bryan
match,
Danielson
was an amazing match.
Yes.
Daniel
Yeah.
Bryan, by the way, also fantastic year, but he's Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson. So same person. Like, we all know who I'm talking about. Yeah, there was a lot of good. Again, you're right. AEW has all the tools to do well. The only
Yeah.
thing they're lacking is someone that knows how to use those tools. And we've talked about this on previous episodes. Tony Khan is honestly, I think, the weakest link when it comes to AEW. And it's sad to say it that way. I think there's
Well, and
opportunities that he's
did you
missing
see
because
his
he
outburst,
doesn't
his latest outburst
know
on
what he
Twitter?
doesn't know.
Yeah, yes. Well, and so then you had that, but
The
then
Twitter thing
even
with
getting
Jinder
into
Mahal.
it with like Eric Bischoff,
Yeah.
and getting into it with gosh, there was something else he was upset about this. He was even USA Network was trolling him, and he was blasting back at them, and just he's somebody that needs to stay off Twitter. You'd think he has like 50 million jobs between the Jaguars and AEW and running Ring of Honor and all of these things, and he's and it's like, and he has all of
And
this
his pet
time
company,
to
that's actually the reason he
respond
has money.
to so many tweets on Twitter, or X, and he's responding to like fans too. Like, somebody will say something and he's upset over it, and it's like, calm down. It's like, can you imagine if Vince McMahon was all over Twitter back in the day? Like, if that was a thing, like, it'd be ridiculous. He needs. Yeah.
But that goes to back what I'm talking about. He doesn't know what he doesn't know, right? One of the number one lessons we teach people in the ring, in this business, especially nowadays, is how to be professional to the audience, because they pay for you. Like, they pay for your living. And the way that Tony Khan is acting, like, why would somebody want to watch AEW after Tony Khan just reamed them because of whatever reason, right? Why would you want to pay for tickets to go to the shows? Why would you want to pay for those pay-per-views, right? There have been times, my wife and I, who are the ones that purchased the pay-per-views for us to watch for AEW, we've debated about getting the pay-per-views for AEW because of the lack of story and the lack of caring about the company as a whole. Honestly, we end up being like, all right, there's like these 3 matches that might be worth getting. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of great matches that we were happy to get, but like All Out, right, which happened a week after Wembley, we were debating about getting, because why? It was a week after. But that's where they had these amazing matches. That's where they had the Daniel Bryan,
Bryan
Zack Sabre Jr. match.
Danielson and Ricky Starks strap match. Yeah. Forbidden Door was the Zack Sabre Jr. Right. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
That was an amazing match.
It was,
right?
No, because Bryan Danielson wrestled.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, no, you're right, because it was Wrestle Dream that Bryan Danielson got hurt wrestling. Was it Okada or? I forget who it was, or Tanahashi, or all the I'm sorry, I'm going to get blasted for this, but a lot of the Japanese people, I can't tell them apart. They're, so it's, yes.
But yeah, he got injured wrestling in that match. That's where he broke his arm. But we debated about getting that match, because why? Why would we want to put our money into that for there?
Mm-hmm.
And though we don't pay for the WWE pay-per-views because we have Peacock. Um, honestly, I can't think of a pay-per-view this year that I wouldn't have wanted to pay for, including Crown Jewel, which I don't think I ever would have said ever,
Roman.
because Crown Jewel was really good. That was LA Knight's match he had with
WWE's at their hottest,
Roman.
like pretty much every show they
good.
do,
like
it's going to be big. You know, there's going to be something that happens on it. That's kind of the problem with AEW is because they don't have a lot of good storylines. It's like, okay, so there's going to be some good wrestling. That's a given, right? Every AEW show has got some matches. It's like, that was a great match. But at the end of the day, are we going to remember it a year from now? And a lot of them, you know, they kind of blend together because the story's not there. Now, I'll remember the devil storyline, even with the payoff that we got and everything. I'll remember it because there's so few stories in AEW that one stands out because it was a story, right? Which is even more reason why I was upset that they didn't make money out of the whole brawl out thing with Punk and the Bucks and everything, because it's like, you don't have stories, and that's a story on a silver platter that you can, you know, draw money with, and you can't get everybody on the same page. Like Tony Khan, that's where leadership comes into play, because Tony Khan should have got them in a room instead of trying to, you know, play nice, and said, hey, you guys work for me, we're gonna make money with this, or someone's got to go. You know, it should have been done like that. Because otherwise, because if you're not going to make money with that, what's the point? What's the point of having everybody there? It's like, no, have somebody move on if you're not going to even have them wrestle. It's you can't run a wrestling company where you're like, all right, this half of the roster can't mingle with this half of the roster. It's like, it doesn't work. That's too complicated. And we've had rosters, even in Utah wrestling, where people didn't get along and everything, but most of the time we still did business. We still went out there and worked with each other. You don't have to like each other to, you know, to do business with each other. Now, granted, there has to be a little bit of trust, right? Because you're putting your body on the line. But if Brett and Sean can work together after, you know, at the peak of their hatred for each other,
people in the business
then
I've not liked.
Damn it, Punk and the Bucks could have, and Omega should have put differences aside. Look at what's happening in WWE right now. Seth Rollins and Punk have issues. They're working together. Punk and Drew have issues. They're working together. Right, exactly, because they're making money. Exactly. That's the biggest thing. There was a joke that, you know, the first night or on Raw when Punk, the night after Punk returned at Survivor Series, and Punk issued the, you know, said the phrase of, I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money. There's a joke out there that Tony Khan's not in the business to make money, he's here to make friends. You know, and it's the opposite. And that's so true. Right? He wants to be loved by everyone. That's why he puts together a disciplinary committee and puts it in the hands of Bryan Danielson, because he doesn't want to make those decisions. It's a cop out. It's a oh, it wasn't my decision, it was the disciplinary committee. Well, who's running the damn company? You know, it's like, who put them in that position? And there's been a big controversy over, like, Bryan Danielson. He's a nice guy and everything, but should one of the boys be on the disciplinary committee? Because they're protecting the boys, you know, or they, you know, it's a conflict of interest in there, because so that means that he can never get disciplined because he's part of the disciplinary committee. Like, is he going to favor himself? Like, how does that even work? You know, it's a big mess.
It is, but in that thought, right, that should he be on the disciplinary committee? I think yes, because he is one of the most respected workers in the business. And even if Daniel Bryan was to do something, not
Mhm.
I couldn't imagine he would, but I think he would be able to step aside from the display committee and let somebody else take that role up, which is what you should do. Um, but I do think also in that same vein, you do need one of the boys, right? To kind of give that voice to be able to understand. It's like, look, I know where they're going from or coming from. I know yada yada. Uh, I also happen to be on a disciplinary committee this year in devotion for reasons, and you kind of have to do that. Like you have to be that guy to be like, look, I understand where so and so is coming from, or like I can see all sides of this because I'm also a worker. I'm one of the boys, but you also need to have that understanding of what's professional, what's the right path to go down for everybody, for the company, and everything. And I think Daniel Bryan being on the disciplinary committee and in the role he's in
Yes.
now with
Kind of.
helping with Collision, I think is the right way to go. I think Daniel Bryan's still new to it, but I think he'll get there. And I think here, well, let's jump to predictions a little bit. I think Collision, particularly this year, is going to be hot. I think it's with Daniel Bryan getting some experience now in running the show and get everything going. I think that one, especially over the others, will be the hottest of the shows because I have faith in Daniel Bryan a lot more than I do Tony Khan. But I'm
Mhm.
hoping and praying, as we talked about
And we've
before,
talked about this.
that
It's like
this
you have
year Tony
all of that
Khan
money.
realizes his
Go out
mistake
and put together a
and
dream
gets
team
some
of
kind of
bookers. They're
a
out there.
booking team
If you
to
throw the
help him
right
out
money at
because he
them,
needs it
they'll come in.
desperately.
You know, there's so many guys, and they had so many guys that great minds for the business working there. Why couldn't they have put together a good
Mhm.
booking team with like Jake Roberts or Arn Anderson, or some of the like? Come on, I mean, you have all of these brilliant minds, and Tony Khan, who's never, whose experience in the business before AEW was booking for for his e-feds, it's and basically, just fantasy booking, and he's playing out with his real life toys. It's yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
Well, you have all these producers too, right? Like, so you got like Jerry Lynn, you got
Right.
who else is there? I just had them in my head.
Yeah, you
Christopher
have all these
Daniels,
people, and then there's
right?
people on the
You
outside.
have all these
Like,
great
I would
producers in the
love to
back that could
see
also help with the booking because
him
they've
reach
been in the
out to
business
some
for
other
20 plus
people,
years.
like,
They have an
gosh, I
idea
don't
of
know.
what the hell they're doing.
Gosh, I mean, throw money at Kevin Nash to come in. He booked before, throw money at gosh, I'm trying to think of who's in the business that's still alive that's around that could help out.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, there's young talent too, or younger talent, like Joe DeFalco in Vegas, or even Matt Yaden at RMP in Colorado. Matt or Yaden would be a great booker, I think, or at least great in the booking team. You got people in Florida that are great bookers. Who's
Yeah.
that one company up in New York that I can't think of? There's so many great bookers out
Mhm.
there and available that you just need to give them the chance, right? For these young talents. So if you had some old hands, so you say you had somebody like
Mhm.
Nash and Jerry
Yeah,
Lynn
he can
and
he
Christopher
can be
Daniels,
like
and then you
Vince
bring
and
in like
and rewrite or
Yaden
tweak
and
things as
DeFalco
needed,
in
but at
and have
least
like
get some
those five
fresh
on there.
ideas.
I think between those
Create some
five, and then let
stories.
Tony Khan kind of have the like last say in it.
Yeah, it's Mhm.
hmm I think you could do something, and then have Daniel Bryan in there to get his experience up and
Yep.
work with everything from Collision. Like there's opportunity for them to do a thing.
Mhm.
Um, but he's just got to do it. And I
Absolutely.
hope this year he does. I hope somebody sits him down and be like, bro, two things. One, stay off of Twitter. And two, get yourself a booking team because you need it. And
Yeah,
desperately.
and nobody wants to see that
Because if
happen.
not, they're going to. I'm not even going to say they're going to
Because
go the way of Impact. They're going to go
that
worse.
would be
They're
hurt
going
the
to burn
business
out.
as a whole.
They're going to
You
go the
need
way of
that
Dragon Gate
competition.
and then be completely forgotten.
You need that, and you need another place where guys like Adam Copeland can go if they're not being utilized correctly elsewhere, and right. Mhm.
Well, not even just Adam Copeland. Like, look at MJF, right? MJF's a homegrown guy for AEW, but the only time you've ever seen him in the WWE is him getting pushed by Samoa Joe, right? As an extra. Would he have made it if he hadn't gotten the eyes on him first from AEW?
No.
Or Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy's beloved now. Would you have seen Orange Cassidy in that gimmick particularly?
It gives more variety to the business. If you don't like what somebody's doing,
no,
and particularly, I think wrestling,
it's a new way to
if
see.
AEW can just get back to even where it
eyes.
was, it's like wrestling will never be hotter, or at least it's been a long time. So, let's go in. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Before we jump on there, one more thing for last year that just pops on my mind because you said it. Wrestling, specifically last year, was never hotter.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the business, we had the Iron Claw movie, right? We had the Dark Side of the Ring, which was huge on Vice. We had Netflix has a show from OVW called The Wrestlers, right? It's a reality show, documentary style show.
And then there's
a show starting this year,
Most Wanted Treasures, WWE's Most Wanted Treasures. That show on A&E. You have,
I think it's called Little Big Brawler.
You even have the rivalries and things like that on,
right?
Documentaries on A&E, and it's like so many, like. I would have loved for all of this wrestling programming to be everywhere when I was a kid. Like, I would have ate it up. Like, I would have been watching it every single day. Like, that's so to have all of this mainstream, wrestling all over all these different channels and everything, it's amazing to see, and wrestling's come a long way. And it's mainstream now.
And then it is. And go on with this. I've been in the business for 20 years, 20 plus years for you. And as an independent worker, the business is independent working wise has never been hotter either. Like, there are a lot more promotions. There are a lot more talent out there for people to see, and more opportunities for the workers to go do. Our guys at Devotion right now, one, Devotion's hot as it always is, but two, our guys are getting opportunities that you and I never got 10, 20 years ago because of how hot the business is right now because of everything that's happened the last year or two.
Ooh.
So that being said, let's continue back on to this year. So AEW.
I'll tell you what I want to happen and what's
our major prediction for AEW?
Worried that is going to happen. I want them to get back, like, to even where they were a year ago. I want them to be the hot ticket where free agents want to go, and where it's like we start actually like really looking forward to the pay-per-views again. I really want them to get back to that because I feel like they've lost a little bit of that. And now it's like there's so much drama there and uncertainty that I'm sure that there's some free agents out there that are thinking, gosh, do we really want to go there? If we have a choice between them and in WWE, where are we going to go? And I feel like there's a year ago, it was different. It was, oh, we can go there and be free, you know? And so I really want them to get back to where they were even a year ago. I don't know if they can do better. I want to see them repeat what they did at All In at Wembley last year and do it again this year and have a hot main event and put your best matches forth. I want to see more free agents showing up there. Whether or not that's uh um Mercedes Monet or somebody like that. I want to see some fresh faces, and I want to see less guys that shouldn't be on TV like being on TV. Like I want like that's the thing that was so great about like AEW Dark and stuff like that is like it was a chance for people to get that ring time and develop their skills so that when they were put on Dynamite, they were ready for prime time. And now it's almost like it's its own developmental company. There's so many guys there. It's like that WWE would never even a million years look at. Um what I'm worried is going to happen, and I don't want to happen, is they lose their partnership with Warner Brothers, Discovery, and that WWE comes in and steals their TV deal, that sort of thing. That's what I'm worried is going to happen. I heard actually a rumor that Raw might get might be on Amazon. Like I don't know how that, like I know Amazon's like the top front runner right now for it. Which would be interesting. Does that mean that they would be on Prime, or do they have a television show, or I mean a TV channel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it'd be on Prime, so it'd be on a streaming service. So that would be a completely different model to have Raw exclusive to a streaming service. So that would be different.
It'd be on Prime.
Mm-hmm. I can't see it'd be on a television channel then, because there's no way they're putting it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. The other one that I've heard too that's like right up there with Amazon is Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And if they was on Disney, well, the plan, as I understand it, because this is how it is outside of the country, is it would be on ABC, and then the pay-per-views would be on Disney's app.
I could see,
which is actually how they do it now outside of the country.
I'm trying to think
you
that
get it through Disney
for
they have their
AEW
distribution that way.
I see Swerve Strickland in main events. I don't know if he'll win the big one, but I see him like main eventing, being a main event talent. I see Will Ospreay making a big splash when he's officially wrestling with AEW. Yeah. Same show that Sting is retiring at, I believe. Is when he's able to debut.
Next month, I believe.
I want to say, oh boy, I want to say that I see maybe even AEW getting more TV time if they do stay. So, I don't know. No, it is, but I could see maybe even like some sort of a spin-off show, like a reality show like they were doing, like the All Access. I don't know what it's going to take for them to get more eyeballs on their product. I would think that if I was Tony Khan, I would eliminate anything negative that puts a negative spin that hurts your bottom line. So I would stay off Twitter, to stay off social media. I would be stricter with not letting drama leak out, or keep it in house, and not just with NDAs and that sort of thing, but really like working it out behind the scenes. But I just don't know what it's going to take for AEW to turn things around. They just need better stories. They just really need better stories. Because there's, I can watch great wrestling all day long, but if it doesn't have a story to hook me in, um, then I'm just not going to be as invested in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jack Perry returns or not. Um, I mean, if I had to put money on it, I'd say he does in some form by the end of 2024. Because if he doesn't return by the end of 2024, he's as good as gone, and his career is probably going to be mostly done. But that's what happens when you cost a company millions of dollars, because your ego gets in the way. But do you have any predictions for AEW?
Yeah.
It does. It does.
It takes two to fight. I agree with you on Swerve. I think Swerve is going to win the title. I think he's going to be by the end of the year. He'll be the champion. In fact, I'm going to take the hot take. I'm going to say that the main event for Wembley is probably going to be either Swerve Strickland and Hangman, or Swerve Strickland and
I can't
MJF
see
for the
him being
title.
a long. I can't see Samoa Joe being a long-term champion at this stage of his
I think
career.
Joe's
Like, I can't see
probably
him
going to
holding it
lose
like
the
6 months.
title
I would say like
within,
3 months.
I'll say June
I could see 3 months.
at the most. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. I was gonna go with 3 months but I'd only say 3 months if they were kind of similarly squaring out pay-per-views like WWE does, where they only really have like 6 to 8 pay-per-views a year. I think June's probably
Yeah.
outright.
Yeah.
Maybe they do those
Right.
not pay-per-views, but like their big weekly shows where they'll do like
Yeah. Yeah.
they're
For
almost like
sure.
pseudo pay-per-views or like B shows, like B
Let's talk
pay-per-views.
WWE.
But they do it on regular TV. I could see him losing it on there within that time of June.
I
I
wish
think
there was
June's the
more meat on
latest
the
I would see him
bone
with
for
it.
AEW right now, to figure out like where they going. But honestly, if they could just stay afloat for another year and get some good stories going,
Okay.
I think that's probably best case scenario for them. Because I don't see them, making some major move, that it's like, oh wow, they're giving WWE a run for their money, or oh my gosh, they're the hottest thing again. I just can't see it at this point.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
I've got one more prediction, and this is the way out of left field super hot take prediction.
Well,
By the end of
that's an interesting
2024, Tony Khan is
prediction, but
fed
there's
up
no way
with
in hell,
everything,
no
with the
chance in hell,
business, everything
right?
else. He decides to sell the company of AEW to Vincent
Okay,
Kennedy
so that
McMahon.
happened, right? But Tony Khan, his ego would not allow that. I don't see him selling. I see
That
them going out of
CM Punk would
business
come back to
before he
WWE.
would sell to somebody else. I just don't see it. And I don't see Vince McMahon competing
Like I said,
against
it's the
his
super
son-in-law.
way out there theory. Like,
I
more likely, I see Billy Corgan selling
I
NWA to Vince
mean,
McMahon than I do
I
Tony Khan.
that would be a
But
big story. That would be a huge story. But I just I can't see it. I just I would honestly
Really?
say this is more morbid. This is more morbid, but I feel like there's a better chance that Vince McMahon doesn't live past this year.
Again,
And
it's
I don't
super
wish
way
that
out there. I
upon
doubt it's going to
anybody or
happen,
whatnot,
but
but like
if it
with
was
him
to
not
happen, I
being
think it's the
involved
year.
in wrestling, I could see him being, like deteriorating because he's not as busy and not um, you know. Yeah, exactly. And that I see that happen a lot where it's like you lose your purpose and you start letting yourself go. You start, just basically giving up. Um,
He doesn't have a purpose per se, so now, yeah,
WWE.
I can see
Yep.
that.
The big one, let's talk Rumble predictions real quick. Um,
Yep,
like we've mentioned,
yep.
there's so many guys now that can
WWE.
fill up that Rumble and so many guys that could win. You think there's two guys.
Okay.
Okay. What if, because I think we both, most likely scenario is the final two is Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, right? It's going to be one of those two. And
Two.
here's the thing, I keep going back and forth on this because my gut says CM Punk wins because I feel like it's Punk's time and Cody
Correct.
winning 2 years in a row.
100%.
Like I don't know. I think that it's far more likely Cody Rhodes goes to Elimination Chamber and wins an Elimination Chamber to go face Roman, and being his last chance to get back to the main event of WrestleMania, than Punk somehow not winning the Royal Rumble and then finding a way to get to Seth Rollins. Like they could do it, but I think it works better the other way. Now what happens though if it's Punk and Cody, let's say, in the ring, and there's one guy left to come down,
I agree.
and if you smell what the Rock is cooking hits for number 30 and the Rock comes out and it's Rock, Cody, and Punk as the final three guys, would that not blow the roof off of the arena? Like, because that would put serious doubt, right? Because what if Rock came back and won it? And then everybody, that I think would get the most people talking, because people would be like, what does this mean for Cody? What does this mean for Punk?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where does this, that would shake things up. And like, I don't know. Is Rock going to be in the Rumble? My gut says no, but if they're going to insert him into things, and I do think they will, whether or not he wrestles Roman at Elimination Chamber a month before, or whether or not he somehow gets the main event against Roman at WrestleMania, something like that. There's, for the first time in a long time, there's uncertainty with who's going to win the Rumble. There's uncertainty with who's going to main event WrestleMania. There, because even if you listen to Dave Meltzer's of the world and stuff, like, usually by this point they're it's pretty much a given. It's like, so the odds on favorite to win, to main event WrestleMania is this guy, this is going to be the main event WrestleMania. That's not what they're saying now. They're saying, like, it could be the Rock. It's like, it makes all the sense in the world. Why would he mention it if he's not going to face Roman? And why would he not do it at WrestleMania? The most eyeballs, and all of that. But so it could be, I think it's one of those three guys. That's what my gut says. It's Cody or Punk. And I go back and forth on who, but at the same token, if Rock's music hits, all bets are off.
Mm-hmm.
All bets are off there.
It would be very difficult,
Not true.
but I still, even if The Rock is in there, I can't imagine him winning it.
The one he
He's never won it.
eliminated Big Show at the end for. He won one Rumble, and it
Yeah,
was
I'm
to
pretty sure he's
face.
never won the Rumble.
Oh, I want to say it was. Yeah, he went on. He won it this year. Yeah, in 2000. Yeah, and then they turned it into a four-way anyway because Big Show. Yeah, there was all the controversy with it, um,
Oh yeah, it won
but if
2000.
Rock's
I
in the
apologize.
Rumble, why would he not win it?
Yeah.
You don't bring back the Rock to come out and lose unless you were going to have Roman come out and cost him, and you do the match at Elimination Chamber to set up. Okay.
Which is what I see happening.
Right.
And this is why. One, they've been pushing the B shows like crazy, right? And two, it's in Perth, Australia, which they've never done before. And it's a huge stadium, which is a huge payout. It's not WrestleMania, but I think it's as close as you can get and needs that star power for something like that. I think that's a perfect place to use The Rock. And I think The Rock might be willing to do the job there because it's something new and something different. Like
His
he can go to
schedule allows
WrestleMania.
it.
He
This
could have gone to
year, as
WrestleMania the
opposed
last
to
3 years, which has always been the
as
rumor, right?
opposed to the
Why would
years.
he suddenly do it now? I mean, there was the writers and screen actors guild strike and stuff like that. So there is that concept, but I think what it is there wasn't a good enough sell to do it until it was to a place that he could have made not per se more money, but more power, like
I
exposure
mean, not
for him
not to my knowledge.
to help the
Doesn't
company
mean it's
with,
never happened, but
and something
I
that's
mean,
new. He's never wrestled in
yeah,
Australia, right? As far as I
I can't
remember.
think of. Mhm. Mhm.
So I can see that being the sell, right? Is it's something you've never done. This is probably a more unique thing to do than working at WrestleMania.
If
So I can
Rock,
see that
let's say
being
Rock
why it was the
and
sell
Roman
for it, and then
does
still allowing
happen at
Cody and Punk to move
Elimination
on
Chamber,
to WrestleMania 2,
does
night
Rock
1,
still
night
do
2.
WrestleMania or no? Against who? See, and I thought they were going to gear more towards John Cena and Solo
Yes,
at WrestleMania.
I think he'll still do WrestleMania. So Solo.
Sure.
And I don't know how you build that story, but the Rock story is already there.
I could see
Solo
it.
causes Rock to not win. Solo is the
Yeah.
next future tribal chief. Rock and Solo. And it helps
It
Solo.
does.
Let's say Solo beats the Rock.
I don't
at
see
WrestleMania,
Rock taking too many
right?
losses, especially if he puts
That
over Roman
helps
and then he
Solo's
puts over
career.
Solo. He's been one that's always wanted to keep himself somewhat strong. He'll take a loss, but losing 2 pay-per-views in a row, I don't know. I mean, it is to his family, right? So I mean, so there's that, I guess. It's interesting. It's interesting to think about.
Who knows? Yeah.
Does Cody finally? Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
the I was gonna say, which is the most interesting thing about all of this from last year to
We
now
thought he was winning though.
is it's an interesting thought that
And
could happen.
that was a surprise.
This time last year, it was set in stone. Cody was going to WrestleMania. Like we knew what it was. It was all set. Now,
right?
It's true, but everything was set in stone. Like we knew everything going into this of what was most likely. This is something that literally you have to spin to make it make sense
I
to
think
have a
so.
story like this to
I
kind of
don't
work
see
everything
them.
to still have
I don't
Cody
see
go against
them,
Roman and
deviating from that.
both of us are pretty sure Punk's going
Real
against Seth,
quick
right?
before
Like
we
that's the
get back
obvious
to,
one.
um,
Yeah.
do you think Punk beats Seth for the title at WrestleMania? Would that not be the biggest like comeback story ever? Like at least one of them,
Yes.
like to like be basically never
Sadly.
thinking you're going to wrestle for the company again, coming back, winning the Royal Rumble, going on to main event WrestleMania, and then winning the title at WrestleMania. Um, it's like
I think that right there it was the sell for Punk to come over to WWE.
see, and I think that was the sell for Cody
Is
to come
winning
in.
the Rumble
Think about that.
and
It's
then
like, oh,
moving
you're
on and
going
winning,
to win the
having the
Rumble
main event night
the fall.
and
So
then
we'll
winning the
debut
title
you
at
against
Mania.
Seth.
I think that was the sell.
You'll
That was
be
the
a top
spice.
guy, and then you'll win the Rumble the next year, and you'll go on to main event WrestleMania. You know, and they might have told him eventually you're getting the belt or something. And maybe they said they were just getting the belt then, and then let's drag it out for another year. But Cody, do you think he wins this year at WrestleMania?
Yeah. He has to. I can't imagine him not doing it and then pushing it off to something else. Like he has to finish his story at this point.
I
Because
feel
if
like
not,
it's
then
now or never for
you end
Cody,
up with
to be
the
honest.
Hobbit and like
I
seven,
feel like if he
the
doesn't
Lord of
beat
the Ring, like
Roman
7 different endings, and they're all boring.
at WrestleMania, it's not going to happen for him. Roman's going to, and at that point, if Roman does end up retaining at WrestleMania again, he's going to beat Hogan's record. He's going to pass Hogan in the record books, for his title reign. Yeah, I think so, something like that. So it's right, one of the two. But
Which
honestly, he
is
probably
Survivor Series, I
keeps it
think,
till
is
next
how
year's
long he's got left
WrestleMania.
till then,
But
or
it's
SummerSlam, one
crazy
of the
to
two.
think about. Because if Roman, I feel like if Roman retains, number one, it's bad for Cody. But Roman's probably keeping it for a while, and then even if they do have Cody beat him later on, it won't mean as much. I don't think when he's lost twice. It'd be a hard sell to get people amped up for a third one.
Yeah, I can't. Like I said, I can't imagine it being done that way. Not to mention at WrestleMania for this, because of all of the history and everything else. At 40, how could you not have him win it and let the crowds go home not only happy but like ecstatic? Because that's exactly what it would be. Like Cody's the number one face in the company, finally getting that story done, winning the title at the big one at 40. You couldn't do it anywhere else. You'd have to do it there and then, and especially if they do it in a way where he loses at Rumble and he has to fight all his way through Elimination Chamber and barely does that. Like if it's that fight, if it's that like that Daniel Bryan level fight where he's got to like scratch and claw to get to it,
Yeah, agreed. Who
and
beats
finally is able
Gunther
to get to that
for the
shot one
Intercontinental
more
title?
time to do it. I think that tells that great story, and it has to be done that
way. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think Gable's going to beat him.
Gable.
You know
Chad
who
Gable
I
was
would
made
have
last year
beat him?
to do it.
I would give it to LA Knight. And here's the thing. LA Knight's probably not going to win the world title. But in order to keep him still hot, I would have him win a secondary title. And what better way to elevate him still but to be the guy to dethrone Gunther? Um, that's what I would do. Mm, and not, yeah, true.
Logan Paul. He's being Logan Paul. They're on one. They're on the same show, and two, I think it fits better for LA Knight, who also is a talker, the Shalapa talker. I think they could have a good match.
Yeah.
I agree. I think he needs to get a title this year. I'd like to see him
Yeah.
do a storyline from Elimination Chamber up to WrestleMania where he works
Yeah, I
Logan
can
Paul
see it.
for the title.
Either way, I think he needs a secondary title though.
So.
I still don't think Chad Gable's going to be the guy to dethrone Gunther. I don't see it. They've done that.
There's only one other person, and that's if he comes back from injury at WrestleMania, which is Sheamus.
Maybe, but I feel like if they were going to do it, they would have done it
story
before.
From last year.
I think
win
that
it,
story's
right?
been told.
That's the one to do it because that's the only title he's never won. I don't think that there's really anybody else better to do it right now than one of those two. They already have the history with Gunther. They have the crowd behind both of them on doing such. I think Chad Gable's the better of the two choices, but I just it feels right for Chad Gable to do it.
You know would be a good match.
What is the IC title? But
and
not the
here's another
title,
prediction:
right?
is obviously
is what Chad Gable
Andrade
has done
returns
for the last 8 years. He's been with the company.
Andrade, yeah, I could see that. Andrade versus Gunther would be an amazing match.
Yeah. At the Rumble, by the way.
Yes, Gargano's somebody that I really hope gets
really
hot again
match.
because
I'm excited to see another match
he was
between him
known
and Johnny
as
Gargano.
Oh, he's the guy. He having 5-star matches left and right, and it's been really quiet with him lately. I mean, I know he's teaming with Tommaso Ciampa and doing that again, but like he was deemed as like one of the best wrestlers in the world. And
well, he is, but he wasn't used properly. I think now with H having the full book, I think that we'll see mid card wise him just exploding over this next year. I think that's the biggest prediction for me is him and Tommaso Ciampa having an amazing year this year.
There has to be DIY something better utilized with those guys. Otherwise, Gargano made the wrong choice when he signed with WWE again.
They faced against each other
when he re-signed with them, because otherwise, like if he doesn't get a good push, he made the wrong choice. He could be main eventing shows in AEW right now. And I know the joke's in there. It's like, yeah, you could be main eventing in front of 400 fans, but but still, yes. Outlandish prediction.
All right.
Is it outlandish to say Roman Reigns keeps the title through all of 2024?
Let's say outlandish-ish prediction for WWE.
Well, I just go back to Paul Heyman saying, when he was asked last year, it's like, where are we at in the story?
I think.
And he says bottom of the third.
God, I hope not.
And that was like 3 years. And if we're really going not like is he going to hold it for 9 years? Like, is it like a baseball analogy and he's going to the ninth? It's that, like, to keep that hot. Yeah, I don't I heard a rumor that Roman Reigns was going to wrestle more this year and go back to, like, do less part-time and start making more of the pay-per-views. That would, I hope so about that. I hope that he's around more, because that just adds more star power. Right. Yeah.
Well, he's at least going to be at Rumble,
Yeah,
and
other
we're both
than Roman
expecting to be
possibly
Elimination
holding the
Chamber
title for all year, I mean,
and WrestleMania. So that'll be 3 shows in a row.
I'm thinking anything else. What about, oh boy. I I mean, I guess, a big news story would be if WWE does, sign with Warner Brothers Discovery and ends up on TNT. That would be the craziest thing ever. To see WWE on TNT and bumping AEW off. That would be a huge news story for the year if that happened. Never say never, I guess. But what's your most
Right,
outlandish prediction?
right.
Mhm. That's not that outlandish, by the way.
I got 2. I see
Yeah,
Braun Breaker coming up this year from NXT,
I think
and
that's logical.
uh, taking a mid card title by the end of the year. That's my 1. And 2,
I could see that.
I think the main event of SummerSlam
Yeah, I could see that.
is
But
going to
if
be
Cody
Cody and
wins the
Gunther.
belt,
If
I don't know if it's
wait,
SummerSlam or
is
not.
it SummerSlam that's supposed to be in Berlin? Or are they doing a special Berlin one? It's whichever one's in Berlin.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I
I'd have
see
to check.
Cody and Gunther.
But yeah, I could see that as a main event for sure. I think Gunther drops the Intercontinental title this year. I think that, yeah, I think it's a pretty safe bet that he does not go all of 2024 with the belt. And other than that, yeah,
At WrestleMania. I would be surprised to I wouldn't be surprised to see at least the major titles
yeah,
changing hands
I
at
could see
WrestleMania.
it.
So ICUC, World
I
and WWE championships. I
I
can
think
see
it's
all of
going to
those
be a
changing hands at
really, really
WrestleMania.
solid year for wrestling in 2024. I really do. I feel that the star power, like, is there for both promotions. They just need to concentrate on themselves, both promotions, and go out there and putting on the best product you can for the fans. And I think they're going to do that. Okay.
I just have one more possible, also sadly highly
Okay.
probable prediction, and this will be the one we'll end on. The end of WrestleMania Night 2. The person holding
You
the
talking about Damian
belts
Priest?
at the very end
That he's going to cash in?
is going to be Oh my God, what's his name?
Ooh.
I just had it. I was gonna say
So Cody gets his
Damian
big moment,
Priest.
but only
I
for a
think Cody
moment.
wins, and then Priest comes out and cashes out and beats him.
It's possible. It's possible.
And then they work towards Backlash.
Yeah, if Priest cashes it in on Punk,
So the other option is
that's
that
someone he doesn't want to
Seth
do it with.
beats Punk and loses it to Priest. I think either which way, Priest is holding a title at the end of WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see Seth beating Punk, but we'll see.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I see it better.
Yeah, we'll see.
Than if he
I
was
can't wait for this year.
Seth.
I can't wait for the Rumble. That's gonna. I can't.
So
I'm. It's been a while since I've been this excited for a Rumble because I don't know what's going to happen, and even the most likely scenario of it being coming down to Punk,
I know I'm so excited,
and Cody, I really want to see it. You know, I mean, there's a money match for down the road too, is Punk and Cody. But I really want to see it. So yeah, it's going to be a good year. I can't wait.
I'm super excited, man. But with all that being said, let us know what you guys think. Reach out to us on social medias. That'll be Be Hero Media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter / X. Oh, sorry. Just pulling up some things real fast. And then you can also reach out to us directly. For myself, you can reach out to me at Mike Burke DCW on Facebook, Instagram, and the new hotness that is TikTok for me. You can catch me on there. I'm posting stuff on there almost daily. You can also reach out to me on Twitter /X at Mike Burke Pro. You can also reach out to Psycho at Psycho Wrestling on the Face of Books. All right. And then for our upcoming shows for DCW. So, January 20th, we will be up in Ogden, Utah for Tussle Time at Kamikazes. On February 3rd, we'll be back at Light Tree Studios for Heartbreak Showdown. It's actually set to be a huge show. And then back again up at Kamikazes in Ogden, February 17th. And then for March Match Madness in March for March 19th at Light Tree Studios. And that's only ones we've had announced right now. There are so many more shows in the work. It's insane. To find out about all of those and get tickets for all the shows I talked about, reach out to us at Devotion Championship Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram at DCW Salt Lake City
called Bash in
Twitter.
Berlin. So,
all right, Psycho. Anything else before we head off?
Okay, that's it.
There you go. I can see that one being Cody and Gunther. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks again, guys, for not only an amazing show tonight, but to be honest, we also had a great 2023 here at Bump Card and the Be Hero Presents family as a whole. So stay tuned with us for the rest of the year for more Bump Card, Slightly Agitated, and all the future shows we have planned for this upcoming year. Also, we will be starting up our own Be Hero Presents TikTok as well this year. So if you guys want to see behind the scenes and things like that, follow us on there once we get it on there. Until then, guys, I've been Brian, he's been Psycho, and for the rest of Be Hero Presents, this is us tapping out. Have a good night, guys.